Senator Dick Durbin, he's at it again with a few other Illinois lawmakers who are continuing to lie about the Capitol riot on January 6th. Durbin, of course, in a social media post, he said that 5 officers lost their lives because of January 6, 2021, the riot that was there. I spoke with Brandon Straka. Brandon Strzok was there. Brandon Strzok, he's the founder of the Walk Away Foundation. And he pled guilty to one misdemeanor count of disorderly and disruptive conduct that day. He doesn't condone the protest getting out of hand, which, I mean, you could argue it got out of hand and it turned into a riot. But I'm telling you right now, 5 officers did not lose their lives as a result of January 6th. And that's just a lie. They can't say that. Dick Durbin, Tammy Duckworth, Eric Sorensen, they all got out there and they said that they all fell, the officers had fallen, and it's sad that they all committed suicide, most of them. There was one individual that I think a couple of strokes, actually. That was Brian Sicknick. He had a couple of strokes, and then the others, they all died of suicide. Much later, some killed themselves like 10 months after the fact of January 6th. There's no suicide note that suggests that they killed themselves because of January 6th. And you've got these really sick, disgusting people like Dick Durbin, Tammy Duckworth, Eric Sorensen, who are trying to say that, oh, yes, they killed themselves because of January 6th. Although we don't have a suicide note that suggests that that's the reason why. So we're going to get into all of that here. I'm actually shocked. I found out, folks, that Eric Sorensen actually voted yes to the Lake and Riley Act. So good for Eric Sorensen. I think that's the only vote that I like of his. He voted yes to the Lake and Riley Act, which was just common sense legislation. There were some Democrats that didn't vote yes. From Illinois representatives, but Mary Miller voted yes, Darren LaHood voted yes, Eric Sorensen even voted yes, and we've got, John Fetterman voting yes to that as well, along with a couple of other Democrats. But 159 Democrats, as I talked about yesterday in the House, they voted against the Lake and Riley Act. And all the Lake and Riley Act is, it says that, hey, on top of the illegal activity that you committed when you entered the country illegally and not through a legal port of entry, if you commit another crime, say a sex crime or theft, anything that you do that's a crime, you're automatically going to be detained by ICE and put into custody, and then we're going to deport you because you committed crimes while you were here illegally on top of the crime of coming here illegally. So it's just common sense legislation. And I was shocked. I think that Eric Sorensen actually voted yes to this thing. I was looking and I was like, I had to pinch myself. I was like, am I in a dream? But 159 Democrats voted no to the Lake and Riley Act. So I want to start with Karen Bass, who was elected mayor of Los Angeles in 2022. Okay, voter turnout was shockingly pretty high. I mean, it doesn't get much higher than this, 46%. As a side note here, her opponent, Rick Caruso, in 2022, he was a former Republican, and then he ran, I believe, as a Democrat, which is insane. He switched parties naturally because it's Los Angeles, folks. You can't run as a Republican there. But people just keep voting for the same, and then they expect different results. You're going to see progressive carnage, this carnage when you continue to vote these progressives in, Karen Bass being one of them in 2022. Take a listen to Rick Caruso. This is the guy that ran in 2022, and he talked about the firefighters. Talked about the city needing to invest in the fire department. Take a listen.
I've been going around the city talking to firefighters and talking to paramedics. I've been talking to residents, and there's a deep concern throughout this city that the paramedics and the firefighters are understaffed because their budget has not been restored from 15 years ago when it was cut back. We have fire stations throughout this city that aren't mobilized because they don't have the staffing to do it, and it's just wrong. My plan as mayor is simple. We are going to restore the budget to bring the staffing levels back, to give the residents of Los Angeles the service they pay for and deserve. And that's the only way a city can be a great city. We have to reprioritize our budget in this city to make sure that our residents are safe and they're protected. And we can't do that unless we have a fire department that is fully funded and fully staffed. I've been going.
Folks, this was in 2022 when this guy, Rick Caruso, he ran in 2022 against Karen Bass. This is what he was saying. And instead of Rick Caruso, Los Angelonians, I don't know, Lunos, I don't know. The residents there, or at least a majority of the 46% of them who came out to vote, 46% of these Los Angeles residents came out to vote. That's what voter turnout was. They voted for Karen over this guy. They actually voted for the Karen. Yes, that is her real name, Karen. She's a Democrat congresswoman. She was a Democrat congresswoman. This is her first term as mayor. And she was actually on, and not a lot of people know this, the short list for Joe Biden's vice president. Karen Bass, she rushed home from her trip to Africa. She went on this trip knowing full well that Los Angeles was experiencing or going to experience record-breaking winds. These winds are like hurricane level winds in Los Angeles right now. And she left to go on vacation, some sort of safari adventure, and she didn't choose to deal with the wildfire crisis. She left knowing full well that they were going to be experiencing these winds and that the conditions were favorable for wildfires. Here she is addressing reporters. This is Bass. You guys are going to get a kick out of this. I just couldn't even believe her response, or her lack of response, I guess, to these questions. This reporter asked her questions like, do you owe the citizens an apology for being absent while homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department's budget by millions of dollars? And we're talking tens of millions of dollars here, folks. And he says, the reporter, you have absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Take a listen to this. This is truly shocking stuff. Here we go.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning?
Silence.
Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor?
More silence.
Have you nothing to say today?
More
Have you absolutely
silence.
nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster?
More and more silence. I mean, this is just truly, truly shocking. This is just so sad. And when this reporter says millions being cut from the fire department budget, we're talking tens of millions. Okay, Bass cut what was it, 17 million? That's how much she cut from the department's budget here to handle Los Angeles's homeless crisis. We know that crisis isn't being solved, and the reason why that crisis is going on is because of progressive policies. See, she's the LA mayor here, and she's implemented progressive policies that encourage that lifestyle. Open air drug deals. You don't get arrested for that sort of thing anymore. What is it? Soliciting, loitering. You don't get arrested for those types of things. Those kinds of crimes aren't prosecuted in LA. Soft on crime, progressive policies have led to the homeless crisis. And a homeless crisis where, I don't know, I've seen quite a few videos where it looks like there's some what you would call eco-terrorists. So this homeless crisis could have led to these fires actually starting. I've seen quite a few videos where it looks like, and nothing has come out for sure, but there's been quite a few videos circulating on social media, on X, the free platform, where you can see these people dressed in all black starting fires. And, these could be homeless people. It's a homeless crisis where an encampment may or may not be responsible for the first fire that caused LA to burn to the ground. These homeless people could be lighting the city on fire. So Bass is incompetent, but she's not the only incompetent official in that state. Insurance companies have been forced out of the state due to overregulation, and the overregulation comes at a state level. So decades of failed Democrat water and forest management policies. I talked about the controlled burns. The Joe Biden administration did away with controlled burning. Now, I don't know about you. My folks, they live in Custer Park. Custer Park, they still do controlled burns, despite Joe Biden's policies. Look, decades and decades of Democrats failing to do proper water management, proper forest management. That has led to fire hydrants not having enough water in them. The water management, the water, what is it called? It's the Water Restoration Declaration that Governor Gavin Newsom refused to sign under the Trump administration, which would have allowed water from north of California to travel down through the state. And I have yet to hear a good answer as to why California cannot collect rainwater. I guess it's bad for global warming or whatever. Take a listen to this fella. This is a longer clip, but you guys are really going to want to listen to it because he is living in Los Angeles. This seems like a really bright guy. And he talks about the land and how it's the best in California. The land is the best, but we have the worst government in America. This is what a Los Angeles resident is saying with the plumes of smoke behind him. He says that Governor Gavin Newsom's failed water and forest management policies have helped turn what could be manageable fires into devastating just plumes and flames just engulfing the entire city. So take a listen to this guy. It's a little bit longer of a clip. Just stick around because he talks about Donald Trump predicting this fire as well on the Joe Rogan podcast just a few months ago. Take a listen.
Last night, I had to evacuate my home in LA because of the fires, the effects of which you can see right above me. Upon reflecting, I remembered a conversation that Joe Rogan had with Donald Trump before the election about the state of wildfire management in California. It's very easy to think of wildfires as something that Mother Nature just inflicts upon us, but we have an influence over both the intensity and the frequency of these fires. And Donald Trump pointed out that there's two things that we've done in California that might be exaggerating the effects of these fires. The first is our policy around water management, and the second is our policy around clearing deadwood in our forests. Check this out.
Los Angeles, you can't get proper amounts of water.
Right.
And it's unbelievably expensive. And they're actually thinking about rationing water. Can you believe it? I was in the farm court country with some of the congressmen. We're driving up a highway. And I say, how come all this land is so barren? It's farmland. And it looked terrible. It was just brown and bad. I said, but there's always that little corner that's so green and beautiful. They said, we have no water. I said, do you have a drought? No, we don't have a drought. I said, why don't you have no water? Because the water isn't allowed to flow down. It's got a natural flow from Canada all the way up north. Water, more water than they could ever use. And in order to protect a tiny little fish, the water up north gets routed into the Pacific Ocean. I could have water for all of that land. Water for your forests. You know, your forests are dry as a bone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dangerous.
That water could be routed. You know, you could have everything. Oh, not only dangerous, billions of dollars a year they spend on forest fires.
Now, let's look at specifically what Trump was referring to here. In 2023, California implemented what's called the Fall X2 policy. This is a policy that's designed to redirect water away from areas that endanger a specific species of fish called the Delta smelt. Proponents of this policy argue that the Delta smelt are important to indigenous populations, as well as important for the overall health of certain other endangered species in that area, like the Chinook salmon or killer whales. And that sounds good, but let's look at what the cost of protecting the Delta smelt actually is. In 2023, we dumped 195.5 billion gallons of water into the Pacific Ocean. That's water that could have been used for firefighting or watering farmlands. This is all happening while we're focusing on scarcity conservation-based policies, while we're dumping $200 million worth of water into the ocean to protect a relatively niche species. Now, that's how we've been wasting our water, but what about our forests?
And, you know, there's a case with the environment. They're not allowed to rake their forests because you're not allowed to touch it. When a tree falls down, after 18 months, it becomes very dry. It's like, you know, like real firewood. It's bad. But when a tree is up, it sucks water. It's wet. I went to they had a couple of horrible forest fires in California. And I said, you know, you had a lot of trees standing. Yes, they were healthy trees, sir. I said, with this intense heat, that you could see they were charred a little bit on the bottom, but they were going to be all right because they're soaking wet because they suck up the water, right? But when they fall,
Right.
they're like, you know, it's like lighting a match.
Yeah.
and you got to be able to clean. They call it maintain your forest. So I was with the head of Austria. He said, it's a shame. I see all those forest fires in California, and all they have to do is clean their forest, meaning rake it up, get rid of the leaves, get rid of, leaves that are sitting there for 5 years. And
we'll certainly get rid of the dead fall.
And get rid of the trees that are falling.
I think that's the real issue.
Environmentally, they don't want to do that. They said, it's got to be nature and all this stuff.
Is there some truth to Trump's claim? It turns out, yes. A 2024 study found that approximately 91.4 million dead trees were spread over 27.8 million hectares of land in California. Many people in the environmental lobby will argue that we need to preserve this deadwood, actually, because it contributes to the natural habitat that many endangered species rely upon. But here's an example of where trying to do good actually ends up doing bad. For approximately 10 years, there was an environmental lobby that opposed clearing deadwood in the Klamath National Forest because they were trying to protect the natural habitat of spotted owls and endangered species. This caused a multi-year legal battle that ironically resolved itself when the Klamath National Forest ended up actually burning down because of the deadwood that they were trying to use to protect the spotted owl population. These kinds of misguided attempts to protect the environment in California not only keep on ruining the environment, it's ruining human lives.
Yep. That is a Los Angeles resident. I know it was a little bit longer of a video, but it was definitely worth sticking around for because this guy lives there and he's got the smoke around him in this video and he's telling people what's actually going on in California. California Governor Gavin Newsom, he was asked about the fire hydrants, why there's no water. And he says, I don't know. And he goes, the local people, the local officials like the mayor, they're just going to have to figure it out. That is California leadership is a total disgrace. Governor Gavin Newsom is a total disgrace. What kind of answer is that? I don't know why why the fire hydrants don't have any water. I'm going to be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We did get some snow, folks. Did you get some snow? How many inches did you get? Lincoln, they got about maybe half an inch, an inch. Bloomington, they got a little dusting as well. Be careful out there. It's still on the road. So if you're driving around, especially these side streets, they're very, very slick, these roads. So be careful. They're covered and it's just scattered like slippery spots. The side streets are still covered with snow. So be careful. We're going to be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. How much snow did you get? Give me a text, 309-451-9299. Hey, go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. We usually don't get much snow, but we got quite a bit yesterday and last night, heavy, wet type of snow. I don't know where you're at, Brian, but send it in the chat where you're at in the state if you're in Illinois. I know South Carolina, I've got some family that lives down there. They were going to get some snow, about 1 to 3 inches, which is rare for them. So, you go all the way down south. It's kind of rare when you're experiencing some snow. So it's kind of funny to, watch Southern people's reaction. My husband lived in South Carolina for pretty much all of his life, and his reaction to the snow is hilarious to watch because what was it? When we had that snowstorm, we got about 5 inches here where I'm at, and when we had that snowstorm, he was like, "Oh, should we go to the grocery store? Should we get extra groceries?" And I'm just thinking to myself, "Nah, it's fine." I was like, "We're not going to get that much snow." They always say that it's going to be a terrible, terrible storm. It always winds up a little bit, which is, in the end, it's probably better they do it that way because you're more prepared that way. And I did wind up going to the store and getting some food for a couple of days. So that way I don't have to go out in that mess. I can't stand the wipers when they're when it's snowing and when the snow's coming down real wet, the wipers going back and forth. I just can't stand driving in it and slushy and it's just a mess. So I hate going out in it, but it's really funny because people down south, they'll be like, we have to prepare. We have to grab all the toilet paper we can and we have to grab everything out of the store because we won't be able to get to the store and get what we need. And I'm just like, worst comes to worst, I'm going to put on some snow skis and I'm just going to go walk to the store, right? And it's just is what it is. You've got boots in the north, you've got nice snow boots, and you'll be able to get out just fine if you've got some snow shovels. We're used to driving in all of this, and it's actually been much worse before. I think now a lot of the snow storms are pretty tame. I've never seen, or I haven't seen a large snowstorm. Now, what I can't stand going out and what I will when I go to the grocery store and gather up all of the food and fear that I will have to go out is when we get those polar vortexes. So we get those in Illinois. Wow, you guys got about 6 inches, Oklahoma City. Interesting. Yeah, you guys don't get much snow in Oklahoma. I have a colleague who lives out in Oklahoma, so yeah, he always says that we get way more snow here, especially when as you get up more north. I think this time, this snowstorm, it wasn't really a storm, this snowfall, more people up north got hit harder. And that's typically the case. This last snowstorm that we had, it was like all down south, Quincy. They had like 3 days of straight snow. But typically you get more up north because of the lake effect. All right, when we come back, we're going to be talking a lot about Governor Gavin Newsom. I want to play this clip of how he was asked, by Anderson Pooper Cooper from CNN. He was asked about the fire hydrants, why they have no water, and the best answer that Governor Gavin Newsom could come up with was, oh, well, I don't know, but the locals are going to have to figure it out. California leadership is a total disgrace. And I want to get to Joe Rogan, not only Donald Trump calling this out and, predicting these wildfires, because that's exactly what that was. Donald Trump was predicting these wildfires and saying how these wildfires happen. One is the water management. They have to fix that because they can't be. And you heard about the Delta smelt. This is like a tiny little fish. It's definitely not edible. It has no meat on it. So I don't understand why you're protecting it. No, I'm not a completely heartless person. Yes, I love wildlife and animals. However, not at the expense of human lives. Okay. The death toll continues to climb because of these wildfires. And I'm sorry, but an animal life is not as valuable as a human life. I don't know when that got controversial or why that's controversial, but I'm just, can we all agree there? Smash that like button if you agree with me. Human life is more valuable than a dog's life, a cat's life, a Delta smelt's life. Like, this isn't even like the owls. My heart, because they're kind of cute, my heart kind of aches for them if like they don't have homes or anything. But with that situation with the deadwood in the forest, now there are no owls left anymore in that forest because of the forest fires, because you didn't clear out the deadwood or you didn't clear out these trees that had fallen. So yeah, don't know. Throw it in the comment section. Are you one of these crazy people who think that animal lives take precedent over or should have more value than human life? So this is Governor Gavin Newsom when he was talking with Anderson Cooper about the fire hydrants not having water in them. Despicable response. The scenes coming out of Los Angeles are truly heartbreaking. And I had Bible study last night. We prayed for them. Continue to pray for these people. Continue to pray for the state. The state deserves better leadership. Okay, and this is the latest example of failed, incompetent progressive policies. We can trace it back. It's called the X2 policy. It literally has a name, where they were protecting the Delta smelt and they cut off all of the water and they stopped collecting rainwater. So we can trace this back to a policy as to why this is happening in Los Angeles and why Los Angeles is burning. So this is the latest example of failed progressive policies, and I hope that this serves as a catalyst to people. Hey, maybe I shouldn't keep voting these same people in. Hey, good morning. So do appreciate you tuning in. Somebody actually on the stream, you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble, lives in Oklahoma City. They got 6 inches. I actually have some family in South Carolina. It turns out that there was some snowfall there, about an inch, 2 inches. They were expected to get 1 to 3 inches. We had a little dusting. Be careful, because I almost think that the dustings are worse than like full blown snowfall, because I think that the plows get out real early when they start, or when they know that the snowfall is pretty heavy and like you're going to get like 6 inches. The snow plows are out there salting the roads pretty early on. When you get like a little dusting like this, they're kind of slow to get to the roads. So be careful. It's scattered snow all over the road, so they can be slick. All right, I do want to talk a little bit about Governor Gavin Newsom. He was asked by Anderson Cooper, "Hey, why are the fire hydrants empty? Why is there no water in the fire hydrants?" Take a listen to Governor Gavin Newsom's response here.
What is the situation with the water? Obviously, in Palisades, ran out last night in the hydrants. I was trying to firefighter on this block. They left because there was no water in the hydrant here.
The local folks are trying to figure that out. I mean, just when you have a system that's not dissimilar to what we've seen in other extraordinarily large-scale fires, whether it be pipe, electricity, or whether it just be the complete overwhelm of the system. I mean, those hydrants are typical for 2 or 3 fires, maybe 1 fire. You have something at this scale, but again, that's got to be determined by the local.
What is the situation with the water? Obviously.
Oh boy. So he pretty much said there, I don't know. I don't know really what the situation there is with the fire hydrants. Look, the scenes coming out of Los Angeles, I saw a headline, the death toll continues to rise. It's heartbreaking. It's terrifying. And the state and those residents deserve better leadership. They deserve better than Karen Bass. They deserve better than Governor Gavin Newsom. And, this is just the latest example of a failed progressive policy. Okay, we can trace this thing back to a progressive policy as to why this is happening. Look at the homelessness crisis that's going on there. We can trace that back to progressive policies. They're not prosecuting people who do open air drug deals. They're promoting really that lifestyle by not prosecuting people who participate in things like panhandling and public nudity. Like, you can just get away with anything there in California. So of course people are going to choose that lifestyle, the homeless lifestyle. There have been people who have been interviewed and asked, hey, why are you homeless? What's going on? Why do you have this hardship? And they go, oh, no hardship. I just prefer this lifestyle. What? Like, that's actually what's going on in California. So these are just incompetent progressive policies. And I hope that this kind of serves as a catalyst for people changing their vote, because your vote really matters. And it matters when it comes to things like your fire hydrants being full. And Karen Bass, when she was elected mayor in 2022, she ran against not a Republican, but a Democrat, a guy who switched from the Republican Party to the Democrat Party. But this is by no means like a MAGA Republican and like a hard right fella. This is a guy that, is actually a Democrat, switched parties, ran against this woman, and lost. Okay, so he had to switch parties because, it's Los Angeles. But yeah, I hope that this serves as like a catalyst to changing the mindset of people, because there's never going to be change unless these people vote accordingly. I do want to talk a little bit, what do I got going on this morning? I want to talk about Joe Rogan. He also had a prediction in 2024. He said there was a fireman who issued a warning, or like had warned Joe Rogan and was talking with Joe Rogan, hey, a fire could burn through LA all the way to the ocean and we can't stop it as firefighters. So I want to get to that, but I also want to talk about homeschool and how it's better than public school. I wanted to pull a couple of these data points today. It's Friday. I like to do this where, it's not a news headline, but homeschooling is actually something that's very, very possible here in the state of Illinois. And not only can you homeschool your kids, and I think that there's just this misconception that people aren't allowed or people shouldn't homeschool their kids, or that it's impossible to do it. Not only can you do it, but you should do it, because it's significantly, all the studies show that it's better than public school, and you don't want your kids to be indoctrinated by the government, right? So we're going to get to that. I've got some numbers, some data points about homeschooling, how you can do it, and how it's actually kind of affordable in the grand scheme of things. So you're going to want to stick around for that. You're also going to want to stick around. Senate Democrats, including Dick Durbin, Tammy Duckworth, they have started. Well, they put out this cringy video at the start of Trump's new administration. Okay, right before Trump is going to 10 days, folks, until he's inaugurated. And I'm worried about Donald Trump. Pray for Donald Trump because I don't know. I think he might be taken out by a drone or something. Or, like, people are going to try to assassinate him that day. I mean, it's already happened twice at the attempted assassinations. So I hope Secret Service is up to snuff that day. So we're going to talk about these Senate Democrats because they released this cringy video talking about how they're going to fight against the Trump administration. And they out cringed Kamala Harris, which I didn't think was possible, but the Senate Democrats did it. I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk bluing to normal. Yeah, there should be a way civil progress. Yeah, so there is a way to protect wildlife. Like, if you aren't going to clear out the deadwood and you're like claiming that these dead trees are housing these owls, which is probably true, the owls take residency up in these dead trees or in the dead trees that have fallen. And you know, it doesn't mean that they're going to die, but I'll tell you what will mean death for these owls is if those deadwood trees go up in flames. Okay, of course the owls are going to die. So I think a lot of times there's just not a whole lot of critical thinking put into these woke policies. The smelt, you know, they were trying to protect this smelt, I guess, by not saturating it with water and dumping the water in the Pacific Ocean and diverting it from, you know, these lakes, rivers, things that are in California, they diverted it to the Pacific Ocean. And they were trying to not oversaturate this delta smelt. I don't even know how like less water was helpful to the delta smelt, this fish. But at the end of the day, you know, what are we going to do? Are we going to, you know, try to protect every single extinct species out there? Or are we going to progress and help human beings? You know, if we had this mentality when the dinosaurs were around, you know, human beings would be dead trying to save dinosaurs. You know, I don't know if you guys have seen Jurassic World. I recently did. It's pretty good with Chris Pratt, but you know, they're like synthetically, artificially trying to keep this species around. And, you know, they cook up the dinosaurs in the lab and they try to keep this, you know, extinct species around, and it actually winds up killing a lot of people in this, you know, amusement theme park. But extinction is just a part of life. And when I mean, we're part of the food chain, human beings, and when you try to artificially keep something alive when naturally it's supposed to go extinct, survival of the fittest, right? They love the Charles Darwin, and they love those scientists who have talked about this for years, centuries. This is nothing new. Extinction is nothing new. And what we've adopted is this ideology that extinction is bad. Extinction isn't bad. It's meant to happen, like with the dinosaurs and with other, you know, survival of the fittest. Like, why are we, if this delta smelt needs the help of human beings to survive, it probably shouldn't be around. And it's probably a good sign that this delta smelt is unable to be around. And, you know, prolonging its life or attempting to prolong its life artificially, or prolong the species or artificially prevent the species from going extinct, that's going to disrupt the food chain, the natural process of the way things ought to work, survival of the fittest. Now, I'm not saying that we can't, you know, protect wildlife in certain types of ways, but we shouldn't be artificially going out of our way to protect animals or from extinction because they're supposed to go extinct. That's like life. Okay. I would say the same things about humans, but here's the thing. Humans are unlike animals, and we will not go extinct because we understand that we have the self-awareness, whereas animals don't have that self-awareness, that we need to continue to populate in order to keep our species going. Most animals don't understand their existence on planet Earth, and that's why the human beings will probably never go extinct. And I think that there's like this liberal guilt of having that knowledge and having a brain, whereas, the animals don't have this awareness of their existence. And they go extinct because they don't have the awareness that they have to continue to populate and avoid extinction. So human beings have the awareness to avoid extinction and to avoid death, which is why we have things like doctors and tigers, out in the safari. They don't, I don't know, or tigers in the safari, out in the jungle, lions out in the safari. They don't have complex medical systems that we try to prolong the life of human beings because we understand that we can't go, or we understand our existence and we don't want to go extinct. But animals don't understand any of that, and they're naturally just supposed to go extinct. And there's no shame in that. It's not a negative thing. Like, I think everybody can agree that it's all right if the dinosaurs went extinct, okay? And that was the beauty of Jurassic World. It pointed to, humans and how we artificially tried to prolong the life of these dinosaurs through this movie. They talked about that, and it's wound up killing people. You don't want to artificially prolong the life of a species that is not fit enough to survive in the current climate or and adapt to its environment. You don't want a species around that can't survive on its own. Just saying. Animals don't have the ability to change their environment. Yes, exactly. And that's why extinction happens in animals, and we just have to let that happen because they aren't aware of their own existence. Like, that's just not what happens. And leftists, I think they feel guilty about that, or liberals. They have like guilt that we understand our existence and that we actively work to prevent our extinction. Hey, good morning. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning, bright and early, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Before we took the break, I was telling you about homeschool. I like to do this every once in a while. I like to step away from the headlines and just kind of provide you some facts about a topic, homeschooling versus public schooling. As you guys know, I'm not anti choice, and if you choose to put your kids in public school, I'm not going to yell or scream at you. I'm just going to say that homeschool is a better option than public school, given the facts, given the statistics. So don't come and email me and text me and say, how could you say this about public school? Look, relax. You can do what you want at the end of the day. Okay. I'm just going to provide you some facts about homeschooling and public school and how homeschooling is better and how you can homeschool your kids and how you should homeschool your kids. If you don't, at the end of the day, it's no skin off my nose. I'm just going to provide you the information because the information tells us that homeschooling is significantly better than public school. The debate often focuses on this illogical premise that kids aren't going to be socialized if they don't attend public school, which is just bogus. Many of you are capable of doing it. More so than you realize. I think many individuals can homeschool, and there's all these barriers, that you, or excuses really, that you give yourself as to why you can't do it. And I'm going to debunk some of those. It can be a beautiful thing, and it's a great leg up that you can provide your children. So over 3 million children in the United States are homeschooled, and that number is increasing daily. Okay, all of the time, that number is just constantly increasing. There's over 3 million children in the United States, and it's totally bunk. It's illogical, this premise that kids are going to wind up not socialized. There's so many opportunities for kids to hang out. And if you look at public school kids, or if you look at kids just in general, a lot of them aren't socialized anyway because of the cell phones. If you homeschool them, They can use the internet to socialize. They can also be a part of extracurriculars through the public school. There's programs where you can allow the homeschooled kids to utilize the public school because you still pay taxes at the end of the day for those public schools. So your kids can go to the public school as well for extracurriculars and things like that. I'm just talking about their day to day. It's best to keep them at home and not be indoctrinated by these woke teachers who have a nose piercing and an LGBTQ flag in their classroom. Okay. So like I said, over 3 million children in the United States are homeschooled, and that number is increasing. If that number were to get to 20, 25, 30%, I think we'd have a much better society. I really do. I think that it would be far better off if that homeschooling number ticked up a little bit more to about 30%. Homeschooling is just better than public schools. A lot of studies show that, the kids thrive in a learning environment of less than 3 hours. You don't actually need the whole 8 hours. And here's the beauty of homeschooling. They're continuing to learn all of the time, and there's not these breaks. So on the weekends, you'll have these prolonged breaks of no learning at all, and the kids are checked out and they're exhausted because they're at school for 8 hours a day. And by the weekend, well, think about what it's like for you at work. You're exhausted. You don't really want to do anything on the weekend. And that's them. There's this period of time where their learning is shut off on the weekends, and then especially during the summers, and that's a bunch of time that's wasted. And in a homeschool environment, they continue to learn, even if it's not like sit down schoolwork for 3 hours. You do that, and then you've got the baking and the life skills that you learn throughout the day that you might not get at a public school. So according to parents.com, the average cost of homeschooling ranges from $500 to $2,500 per student annually. That's all it really costs. That's not a ton annually, $500 annually. Come on. So that's all it really costs you as far as curriculum goes. And supplies, it kind of depends on the needs of your children, from $500 to $2,500. It could be a little bit more if your kids need a little bit more. And over 60% of homeschooled families earn less than $75,000 a year. So a lot of people think that homeschooling your kid takes a ton of money. It really doesn't. $75,000, now that's quite a bit, right? I mean, it's not like a low income, but it's not high income either. It's not like extremely high. That's most middle class families right now. Now, this often does occur with only one parent in the labor force, when one parent is in the labor force. So $75,000 a year. Typically, that's the what the families earn, homeschool families earn. Now, some earn less than that, and they still make it work. So it comes down to your priorities. Okay, what are you willing to sacrifice, and is it worth it? If you're making $80,000 a year, you can absolutely do homeschool. Most people who homeschool make less than that, $80,000 a year. So many studies have shown, like I said, kids thrive in an environment where they're only learning 3 hours a day, and then the rest of the day they are still learning. It's just not this like book work. Okay. Public school is not designed to be the best way and the most efficient way, and honestly, the most healthiest way for your kids to learn. Okay, study after study has shown this. It's designed to allow you to work, and the school is going to be a babysitter. And we've seen what happens when the school becomes a babysitter. They indoctrinate your children with their belief system and with that teacher's belief system. Not only do kids who are homeschooled turn out just fine, but they actually develop better than the kids in public school. I actually know a family, they homeschool all 12 of their children. Absolutely insane. 12 kids, and they homeschool all of them. And I was talking to a couple of the older ones. We went to dinner at their house, lunch at their house, and love them. They're awesome. They're a sweet, sweet, sweet family. And the two kids that I was talking to, one of them was like making music in his free time, right? Because he only had to like do school work, like 3 to 4 hours a day, and then the rest of the day they worked on their projects, and they got really good at a specialized thing. And this kid, he was like a musician, and he would create music on his computer and had a YouTube channel with quite a few followers. And I'm like, man, that would be awesome to have that leg up over, because people don't do that until they get into college. If you go to public school, you can't really do all of that. You don't have the time to do all of that because you're in coursework 8 hours a day. Now, if you had, 3 hours and then you had some time to kind of work on, your passion, then that puts you ahead. And now, I mean, he's going to be so much further ahead than all of the music majors in college, because he's made music and created a YouTube channel that has followers and music on it, and he's already doing what he wants to do in life and in his job. So, like I said, not only do kids who are homeschooled turn out just fine, but they actually develop better than kids in public school because they are so far ahead in their career field, in their preferred career field. Now, I don't know if he's going to, stick with music. That's what he wants to do, like as far as his career goes, as of right now. But at least he's got some sort of leg up in some sort of industry that he could be potentially going into. So that being said, do you really want your government seeing your kids more than you do? And, I wanted to take this time this morning, step away from the headlines and just kind of provide you some facts about homeschooling versus public school. I think it's better. I understand most people, it's only 3 million children in the United States who are homeschooled. The number is increasing, and that is quite a bit, more than I had thought. But if that number were just to tick up to about 20, 25, 30%, I think our country would be much better off, don't you? 309-451-9299. Your thoughts. I'll be right back on the other side. You're listening to Conservative Cat. All right, go ahead, smash that like button. I wish I would have done better in school. I only wanted to hunt, fish, and party. Yeah, well, that's the thing too is, when you do homeschooling, you have so much more time to allow the kids to do what they actually really are passionate about. And, human beings, I think, are naturally they fall into, and we know this because look at our college infrastructure. You go in and you specialize in a specific, you major in something. So my major was journalism. It's a passion of mine. I like to write. I like to ask questions. I like to report on the news. It's a passion of mine. I like the news. I'm a bit of a news junkie. I love headlines. So had I been homeschooled, I was a public school kid. And I'll tell you right now, I had one extracurricular, and it was about journalism, and it was like a journalism type extracurricular. And the only reason why I could take it was because I did so well in school. And they offered the class to, higher performers in school. And that wasn't even offered to everybody in public school. Okay. I was kind of the minority here where I got to take this class. And I really, really enjoyed this class. And that's what really made me want to go into my career field was this class. Now, that was only 30 minutes of my day. And I don't even think it was every single day. It was like 30 minutes of my day, 3 times a week. Now imagine if I had been in, we worked in like iMovie and we edited video and we did all kinds of like journalism type things, and everything I do now, like in my career that I absolutely love. I love talking with you guys. Everything I do now, I did in that class in high school. And I didn't do it nearly enough. Like I said, it was like 30 minutes a day, maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then I didn't go on Thursdays and Fridays. Could you imagine had I been homeschooled, had all the book work, like the basic book work, your basic algebra and things like that, 3-4 hours a day. And then the rest of my day could have been dedicated to learning iMovie. My parents could have used YouTube, or back then it would have been a little bit. But with technology and with the internet and how advanced this all has become, I think that homeschooling is easier than it ever has been. had I had, 3-4 hours of my day taken up with the, basics, your basic algebra, your reading, math, arithmetic, all of that, had that, that 3-4 hours, and then the rest of my day been dedicated to media, I would have been so much further in my career. I think today, I would have been so much further than my peers at college. Had I had more time, I think I was further than my peers in college because I had that little course in high school. But had I been doing this, my entire educational career, and had time to pursue my passions, that would have, thrown me into the career and further into my career than anybody else in the field, and made me the top 1% in my field. Hey, good morning. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. When we come back, I do at the top of the hour want to talk a little bit about Rick Caruso and how he said in the 2022 election, I think this is when he said it. He said, if it's predictable, it's preventable. So he was predicting during the 2022 election against Karen Bass, who is the current Los Angeles mayor, and she was actually on the short list for Joe Biden's vice president. Rick Caruso, he said, if it's predictable, it's preventable. Now, obviously, Joe Rogan had predicted that the Los Angeles fires would happen, and he did this months ago. I'm kidding. It was in July of 2024 where a fireman approached Joe Rogan and had a conversation with Joe Rogan about how, just one day it's going to be, this fire, and the wind is going to be just right, and there's not a dang thing that the firefighters are going to be able to do about it. And Joe Rogan talked about this in 2024, July 2024, how it freaked him out that this fireman was telling him about how Los Angeles was going to burn all the way to the ocean. So every year, Los Angeles experiences these Santa Ana winds. So these winds are nothing really new. It's not climate change. Oh, the winds are changing. They do this. It's every single year they experience winds like this. And when you combine the dry weather, the dead vegetation, and the one-party rule, you get the worst wildfire in Los Angeles history. When you can have the Democrat supermajority rule for decades and decades. And they've implemented these woke policies that have effectively changed the environment there and has made it very, very dry. And they artificially are changing the environment, and that's what's led to the worst wildfire in Los Angeles history. It does absolutely nothing either to cut the budget of the fire department. Of course, you're going to wind up with dry fire hydrants. So we're going to come back. We're going to talk about Joe Rogan's prediction that he made in July of 2024. I'll be right back here listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Find me on YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter. Hey, good morning. So do appreciate it. Go ahead, smash that like button. Good morning. I want to get back to this. All I really wanted to do was hunt and fish and party. Had you had time to maybe actually get into hunting and get into fishing, I mean, could you imagine if you were an expert hunter or an expert, if you had all of this time growing up, and you only had to learn 3-4 hours and you were productive in that 3-4 hours with your math and reading and your basic, schooling. And then you had all this extra time during homeschool, right? Where you could go out and hunt and you could go out and learn all the ins and outs of fishing. I mean, you could open up your own bait and tackle shop. You could open up your own Bass Pro. That is what, Bass Pro, I don't know who the owner of Bass Pro is, but they've got to be making millions. They've definitely made quite a pretty penny off me for my Christmas shopping. I went there, right? But could you imagine if you, as a kid, pursued your passions and got really good and were an expert in the field, what you could be doing? With your career at this point, and you could have done it, your career. I don't know what your career is, Brian, but you could have gone into, a career that dealt with your passion, your hunting and your fishing passion. When you have all that time to work on your passion, of course, you're going to be an expert in it. And of course, when you get to a point where you enter the career field and enter the job force, people are going to look at you and they're going to be like, this guy's an expert. I mean, how do you get so good? It's because you've been working on it your entire life. Information at your fingertips, and instead of learning, kids and adults watch stupid videos. Yeah, that's it. I've actually been doing this thing. It's called micro learning. Now, I'm a big reader. I love to read, and I try to stay off social media because I just never tend to do the learning portion of it. Like, social media can be such a great thing, like YouTube. You can literally be an expert in anything if you like go down a rabbit hole and search up enough YouTube videos. One thing that I absolutely love is ChatGPT AI, and I think it definitely is helped me in my career in journalism, and I write articles and I do reporting and things like that, and it's definitely helped me. Yesterday I talked about the dust storms in Illinois, how many dust storms we've had in the last 10 years, and I don't know that off the top of my head, but what ChatGPT does with the AI technology, it searches through all of your articles that have ever been written in Illinois, right, over the last 10 years, and then it pulls, dates of the dust storms. So I found out, just yesterday that we haven't had a whole lot of dust storms like ever. Like within the last 20 years, the most dust storms we've seen is since 2017. So 2017, 2023, 2024. Some of these were so bad where it actually killed people. Others, they had to shut down the highway for a couple of days. So I learned that at my fingertips yesterday, which is absolutely insane. And it helped me in my job, right? Because I delivered the story and I wanted to, prove that there was a higher frequency of dust storms. And, the easiest way to have proven that was ChatGPT it. So, I got a bachelor in business administration. I should have gone to trade school after that. Yeah, I mean, you can't live your life in regret, but I mean, man, I think that a lot of people, if you were to truly think about homeschooling, you would realize that you would have had so much more time to pursue things that you really, really wanted to pursue. And you might not have, like, kids' minds, they change all the time. But I think that pursuing your passion and like once you start to pursue it and you really, really like it, then you get stuck in it and then you get really good. I think that homeschooling fosters that environment to pursue your passions. And unfortunately, public school, it's an 8-hour essentially babysitting service. And I hate to say that because I know public school teachers watch me, and it's not that I hate school teachers or public school teachers, and it's not that I don't like you or don't think that some of them are good, but some of them are really bad. And it's designed to be a place of babysitting. Kids, after about 3 hours, their brain shut off. Think about you at work, even as an adult, okay? My most productive hours at work, 3 hours, the first 3 hours from 9 to 10, 11, 12. Okay. By noon, I'm kind of cooked. And like, you're not getting much productivity out of me. As an employee, I mean, you'll get like full focus for the first 3 hours of work. And if you look at studies show this is how human beings work. They can stay focused for a 3-hour period. And it's even worse now because of social media and how our attention spans have changed over time because of social media and the dopamine. But you can probably get the most productivity out of somebody for 3-4 hours. Outside of that, you're kind of, productive-ish. So unless you have an energy drink in the middle of the day, and then maybe you can get another couple of productive hours out of me. But speaking of which, I've got some Patriot Pump right up there, patriotpumpenergy.com. You guys can go check it out. It's actually an energy drink that I've developed. It's a supplement. It's got creatine, black pepper extract. It keeps you focused pretty much all day long and keeps me going. It's like fast. It's meant to be kind of a pre-workout, but it's not as caffeinated as some of these pre-workouts where you got like 300, 200 milligrams. This has 150 milligrams of caffeine, which is basically your caffeine intake for the day if you have like a few cups of coffee in the morning. And it's just got some good supplements in there. It's really great. I'm going to just be honest with you for men. There's creatine in there. I'm not much of a fan of a whole ton of creatine. This doesn't have a ton of creatine in it, but there's supplements in there that will keep you going for your day and keep the blood flowing. And yeah, I definitely recommend it. It's a conservative Christian company. My husband and I run it. It's patriotpumpenergy.com. So we're going to be right back. We're going to be chatting a little bit about Joe Rogan and the prediction that he made in July of 2024. Not only did Trump call it, but Rogan called it, that these fires were going to happen. And Joe Rogan was in an episode where he talked about the California wildfires and how California actually refused to build these water reservoirs and manage their forests to prevent these wildfires. So we're going to talk about that here next. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. I so do appreciate you tuning in. You guys can always check me out on the stream, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. I'm there. You can subscribe to the channel. Joe Rogan, in 2024, he said he talked to a fireman. Okay, so every year in Los Angeles, this is nothing new. They experience these winds every single year. Okay, so when people say, "Oh, it's climate change," the weather is changing. Look, folks, the winds happen every single year in Los Angeles, and when you combine that with the dry weather and the deliberately dead vegetation that they're not clearing out, and then the preventing the water from flowing down to the rest of the state, and they just pump all the water. They stopped collecting rainfall. You combined all of that with the Democrat supermajority rule, you're going to get the worst wildfire in Los Angeles history. That's just what is going to happen. And that is what happened and what we're dealing with. And it's just completely terrifying and devastating. And I'm praying for the families of Los Angeles who've lost their homes. So hopefully this is a wake-up call. Hopefully this is a catalyst for you to change your votes and to vote in your best interest. But take a listen to this. This is Joe Rogan in 2024. He was on an episode and they were talking about how this fireman was freaking out and was talking to Joe Rogan about how just one day it's going to be the right wind and the whole place is going to burn down. The whole city is going to burn down. LA is going to burn all the way to the ocean, and there's not a thing that the firefighters can do about it. Okay, and it doesn't help that we don't have the fire hydrants. They're not full of water. They're without water, and you literally cannot fight fires without the water. So if this is going to burn, this fire is going to burn all the way to the ocean. And there's nothing that the firefighters can really... I saw a video of firefighters. They were taking traffic cones and using the puddles of water and filling up the traffic cones and dumping the traffic cone water onto the fires because they were using the excess water from the hose, and they were trying to reuse the water from the puddles of the hose. Not only did Joe Rogan call it, but Trump also called it, folks, on the Joe Rogan podcast, not in July of 2024, but just a few months ago prior to the election. He called this like 3 months ago. And this was a famous Joe Rogan episode talking about how California refuses to build the water reservoirs, refuses to collect rainfall, and they refuse to manage their forest and do things like, controlled burns. Controlled burns have been studied. They prevent wildfires. They do it in where I grew up. Because Illinois, we have strong winds and it gets really dry. There's a period of time right there in I'd say August, September, November, where it gets really, really dry and the winds are really, really strong. Okay, so we prevent wildfires, at least in some communities, by doing controlled burns. Sometimes the farmers will even go out and, spray the fields with water to kind of prevent... before the harvest, they'll spray them with water so that way they don't dry up, and it prevents forest fires and wildfires. So take a listen to Donald Trump here on the Joe Rogan podcast. He predicted it and knew that something like this was just bound to happen in Los Angeles.
They said, "We have no water." I said, "Do you have a drought?" "No, we don't have a drought." I said, "Why do you have no water?" "Because the water isn't allowed to flow down. It's got a natural flow from Canada all the way up north. Water, more water than they could ever use. And in order to protect a tiny little fish, the water up north gets routed into the Pacific Ocean. Millions and millions of gallons of water gets poured. I could have water for all of that land. Water for your forests. Your forests are dry as a bone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dangerous.
That water could be routed. You could have everything. Oh, not only dangerous, billions of dollars a year they spend on
Can you tell that Donald Trump is a businessman? He starts thinking about the billions and billions of dollars that they spend on forest fires.
Forest fires. And, you know, there's a case with the environment. They're not allowed to rake their forests because you're not allowed to touch it. And all they have to do is clean their forest, meaning rake it up, get rid of the leaves, get rid of, you know, leaves that are sitting there for 5 years. And
we'll certainly get rid of the dead fall.
And get rid of the trees that are fallen
Yeah.
that you know, are.
Okay, so that was Donald Trump on the Joe Rogan podcast just a few months ago. And look, folks, it's unclear how much destruction the city is going to see. I think that, this is just going to go all the way to the ocean. Los Angeles is just going to burn because there's no fire hydrants. There's no water. So they can't really put out the fire. So it's just going to continue. And the Palisades, this is a really rich area, folks, by the way, Palisades. And I wonder what they're all thinking right now. They're probably thinking to themselves, I probably shouldn't have contributed to these Democrats who are letting my city now burn and my home burn up. But the Palisades fire has burned 15,832 acres and has been contained 0%. Like, they have not contained that fire at all. The Eaton fire has burned 10,600 acres, 0% contained. Now, fortunately, there have been some fires, several fires that have been contained by the firefighters there, and they've made a little bit of progress. But there are currently 2 major fires that have not been contained at all. The firefighters haven't touched them. It's in the Palisades fire, over 15,000 acres burned. Then you've got the Eaton fire burning 10,000 plus acres. So it's unclear what officials are going to come up with. After this, hopefully they come up with an adequate policy that prevents these apocalyptic events from happening ever again. But that's unlikely because it's Los Angeles and people vote blue no matter who. And I really don't think that their mindset is going to change. I hope that this serves as a catalyst to change their mindset and to vote actual people who care about the fire department budget in, like the guy, like I said, his name was Rick Caruso. He was actually Barack Obama funded Karen Bass over this guy, and he funded her and got her to the finish line. And Rick Caruso was talking about, hey, we need to make sure our fire department is fully funded. $17 million has been cut from the budget since Karen Bass has taken office. This is her first term as mayor. So in the state of California, criminals, they're put in front of citizens, while fish are also put in front of people. And I talked about this on the stream. You guys can always join me on YouTube. Liberals, I think that they have this guilt about animals going extinct. Animal extinction is not a bad thing. Animal extinction in most cases is really great. For example, the dinosaurs. I actually just recently watched this movie with Chris Pratt. It's Jurassic World. Have you seen it? Where the human beings, they artificially tried to keep this species alive, the dinosaurs alive, and they put all the species in this amusement park and they try to profit off of it. But the human beings are artificially trying to keep this species alive, and they wind up creating, this crazy dinosaur that winds up killing almost everybody in the movie. So it's been out for a long time, so I don't feel bad spoiling the movie for you. But, liberals, they have this guilt that, human beings, we understand our existence and we understand the possibility of our extinction, and we do all kinds of things to prevent extinction to the human population. Okay, from experiencing extinction, we populate, we celebrate our births, birthdays. We have hospitals, complex medical systems to avoid death, and we are constantly talking about dieting, what we can do to help your day to day is all about how can I be healthy and prevent myself from dying and prevent the human race from dying. Like, so much revolves around just that. And it's because we're the only species that is aware of our existence and our possible extinction, and we prevent our extinction. And I think that liberals feel guilty about that. And I don't know why. Human life is better and more valuable than animal life. I didn't know that was a controversial statement to make, but they feel guilty about that. And look, animals, I love them. I've got 3 cats, puppy. I love animals. I love horses, all of them. However, uh, extinction is a just natural way of life for these animals. Animals go extinct, and typically it's for good reason and it's time. Okay, so if this Delta smelt was supposed to go extinct, it sounds like this Delta smelt can't live without intervention from human beings. And if that's the case, then it probably needs to die off. Okay, it's called survival of the fittest. I thought you guys were leftists. I thought you loved Charles Darwin. I don't understand. So survival of the fittest. If it's unable to live on its own without human intervention, it probably is meant to die. It's probably meant to go extinct. Okay, so the state of California, like I said, they put animals in front of people. They put criminals in front of citizens. Make it make sense to me. Please make it make sense. All right, I do have to switch gears. I want to talk about the Kamala Harris campaign and how they dedicated most of the campaign. I think I shared every other week with you this really cringy video. Remember Kamala Harris sipping out of this beer with Gretchen Whitmer? And then she was on with I think it was like a comedian. I want to say it was Jimmy Fallon or some sort of comedian where she was like drinking Miller High Life or something, and she couldn't even really open the Miller High Life. And the way she drank this beer was just so cringy. And Kamala Harris is just so cringy. And she tried to out cringe herself during the campaign. Like that was just video after video, cringe. Now you have the Senate Democrats who have out cringed Kamala Harris. I didn't know that was possible, but here it is. It's a video that they put out there, and I don't know if this is like an attempt to appeal to Gen Z or what exactly this is. But it's a pathetic attempt to appeal to Gen Z because you got a bunch of octogenarians in this video. Dick Durbin. I don't know about you, but nothing is appealing. I'm Gen Z. Nothing is appealing about Dick Durbin. Okay. And the Senate Democrats, they posted this really embarrassing, cringy video as a way to threaten Senate Republicans and Donald Trump. Let's take a listen here. Here we go. Okay, I love the Home Depot music in the back. It's like a Home Depot theme song in the background, but take a listen.
Okay.
Oh. How's my tie? Is it okay? It's not straight.
Here we go.
We're different.
Wisconsin,
Rhode Island.
Hawaii, New York,
From the Great Lakes,
To the Mountain West.
the Pacific Northwest,
to the south,
and the Northeast.
Coast to coast.
We have differences.
And some disagreements. But Senate Democrats are fiercely united on this.
We are not here because of who we are against.
We are here because of who we are for.
Every one of us was elected to fight for working Americans.
For American families.
For you.
For you.
For you. We're here to make housing more affordable.
to help working Americans keep more of their hard-earned paychecks, to lower the cost of child care,
prescription drugs,
and yes, groceries,
to help small businesses thrive,
and every child have a safe and great public education.
We are here to fight.
to fight for Americans.
We will work with anyone,
if they want to make life better for you.
but
If Donald Trump and Senate Republicans,
do things to hurt you.
we will fight.
we will fight.
If they come after affordable health care, if they pursue policies that drive up costs,
If they ignore the threat of climate change,
If they come after our troops and veterans' benefits,
if they take away access to reproductive rights, attack our basic freedoms,
If they try to enrich their friends,
If they pay for tax cuts for the wealthy by coming after your paycheck,
your Social Security, your Medicare,
they will have to come through us.
through us.
Through us.
this is a new Congress.
It is a new day.
We are united.
Determined. Ready.
119th Congress has begun. All right, let's go.
Let's go.
Let's get to work.
Okay, let's go.
let's go.
Let's go. I don't know. I don't think the Senate Republicans or Donald Trump is, I bet they're shaking in their boots after watching that video. Who is that video made for? Like the fact that the left relies on most of these out of touch boomers, octogenarians like Dick Durbin, to try to appeal to the younger generation. I think that's what they're doing with their video. They're trying to appeal to a younger generation, and they've got all these cuts in it where all these Democrats are trying to pretend like they're for the working class. I mean, this is incredibly disingenuous. They start by claiming that they're not here to fight against the Republicans, is they're here to represent you. And then in a very comical way, they start saying, oh, but if they come in between, you and us, then we're going to fight against the Republicans. Okay, so they say that they're not there to fight the Republicans, but in the same breath, they say that they're there to fight the Republicans. It's pretty comical considering they've spent the last several years campaigning on one thing and one thing only: not being Donald Trump. They're all about not being Donald Trump. We hate Donald Trump. Orange man bad. Right. So they say, oh, it's about you. It's about you. And we will fight against Republicans if it means that we are to represent you and if they come after your best interests. Additionally, none of them would even be in that video if they were not supported by the richest elites in the world. Okay, Dick Durbin is a big pharma hack. Okay, the pharmaceutical industry, they use Dick Durbin to do their bidding in the Senate. Okay. So Dick Durbin is paid for by the richest elites in the world. All of those people in that video are paid for and supported by the richest. So none of them are for the working class. They have no idea what that means. Okay, the working class. They've done nothing in their life to be considered the working class. And they've done everything in their power to really destroy the working class. And it's completely disingenuous, that entire video. They all voted yes to the Inflation Reduction Act, which created some of the worst inflation in modern American history. And it's unclear what they even mean when they say they're going to lower the cost of living. Okay, you had a chance to lower the cost of living by voting no to the Inflation Reduction Act. You missed your opportunity to represent the people. You should have voted no against the Inflation Reduction Act. And I love how they said, tax cuts for the ultra rich are coming out of your paycheck, and Republicans are gonna do tax cuts for the ultra rich. No, what happens is if everybody sees tax cuts, that's what's going to happen under the Trump administration, and everybody benefits. Millionaires, working class folks, because then you're not paying the bureaucrats these high exorbitant salaries. Doge is going to fix that. We're just going to fire a bunch of people, and you don't need all those taxes, so you can do tax cuts, and you're going to have more money in your pocket. They actually take money out of your paycheck to pay for all the bureaucracy in the state agency or the government agency. So it makes no sense. I think they're really trying to prey on the naive voters with this video, maybe appeal to the young, naive college student voters, the Democrats, the lefty with the blue hair and the nose ring. But they claim that they will work with anyone. But then in the same breath, they say, oh, but we won't work with Donald Trump and we won't work with the Senate Republicans on anything because they're against you. I mean, that's what this whole video is about. It was like a warning to the Senate Republicans and Donald Trump, which I doubt that they're shaking in their boots after watching, Dick Durbin, barely get out of his chair there. He was like, I'm back. He's like barely able to get out of this chair, and he says, let's go. Like, oh yeah, I'm petrified. I'm terrified of how you're going to fight against me. Give me a break. These people claim to be all in it for the little guy, but in the same breath, they proceed to prove that their main priority is getting in the way of Donald Trump's plan. I don't know if they're aware of this, but Donald Trump won the popular vote. Okay, do they realize that? So to say that you're going against Donald Trump, I mean, that's not a very popular thing to say. Most people voted for the guy in the United States. So the whole video is an act, and they intend to, here's what their true intentions are. Is they want to do everything they can to destroy the working class and to destroy your way of life. That's what these people are all about. And America does not thrive when these people make decisions, clearly. And that's why people voted for Donald Trump. He won the popular vote. And to say that you're going to fight against the president that won the popular vote and won the presidency, it's just not a good look. And, the left lost the election. Okay, these people make poor decision, and that's why the left lost the election. They want Donald Trump's policies. They want Senate Republicans' policies because we have the majority in the Senate now, too. The Republican Party does. So clearly the people have spoken. And if you're fighting against Senate Republicans and Donald Trump, you're actually fighting against the American people because the American people voted all those people in and voted Donald Trump in, and he won with the popular vote. These people just project their insecurities onto the rest of the world rather than embrace any kind of form of self-awareness. Are these people even aware? All right, I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We'll be right back. I don't know about you, but this is the most hilarious video I've ever watched in my life. I'm going to watch it one more time here. Hold on. I'm actually going to watch the ending here because that's my favorite part.
Enrich their friends if they pay for tax cuts for the wealthy by
like
coming after
80
your
years old,
paycheck.
every
Your
single one of
Social
you.
Security, your Medicare,
They will have to come through us.
Through us.
through us.
This is a new Congress.
It is a new day.
We are united.
Determined. Ready.
The 119th Congress has begun. All right, let's go.
Let's go.
Let's get to work.
Okay, so a few people in there. I want to look up the ages of Elizabeth Warren. Warren age. She's 75 years old, so she's getting close to 80 there. Who else is featured in the video? Schumer, Chuck Schumer. Schumer age. He's 74 years old. Dick Durbin. His age, I think he's like 80. Yeah, he's 80. I mean, come on. These are 70, 80-year-old people, which I'm not against, if you are, doing right by the American people. But you've been in here in office for years and years and years. And the only reason why you're still there is because the elitists prop you up, okay, as and they support you every election. I'd be curious. I'm actually going to look this up, but I got to take a quick break. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Smash that like button and share this out with your friends. Woo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9 News and Talk of Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. Now, before I took the break, I was telling you a little bit about Dick Durbin being featured in this video, and like he's like, his back is like hurting him, getting out of this chair. He's an octogenarian, folks, and he's sitting there and he's like, "Let's go. Let's, we've got a message for Senate Republicans and Donald Trump. We will fight you. We will fight you." It's like, come on, give me a break. They are so they lack self-awareness. Clearly, the people have spoken. They want Donald Trump policies. They want Republican policies. There's Republican majority in the House and in the Senate. And these people lack the self-awareness that, hey, actually representing your constituency means working with the Senate Republicans and Donald Trump. Okay, that's what this means. And not voting for things like the Inflation Reduction Act. You're really for working class folks? Okay, why'd you support the Inflation Reduction Act? It created some of the worst inflation rates in modern American history. And I always bring this up about the Inflation Reduction Act. The easiest way, there's one provision within the Inflation Reduction Act. It gave like $7,500 to citizens to go buy an electric vehicle. Subsequently, he had Ford raise the cost of their electric vehicles by $8,000. That is how the Inflation Reduction Act works. You spend a bunch of money, then everything goes up. That was the Inflation Reduction Act. So I do want to talk about some slogans here. Now, every Friday, I kind of step a little bit away from the headlines, and I like to kind of bring you earlier we talked about homeschooling and how it's better than public schooling. I do want to also talk a little bit about some leftist slogans. So left slogans that I can't stand. I also really can't stand like "Be Your True Self." That one is probably my top leftist slogan that I cannot stand. But there's some other ones. The "Believe All Women," Black Lives Matter, "My Body, My Choice." What's a leftist slogan that you can't stand? Text me 309-451-9299. Every single one of these slogans are stupid and they're wrong. "Believe All Women," that was, of course, coined during the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation hearings and was voted Times Cover of the Year. Okay, so Times, they actually came out with a cover and it said "Believe All Women," and it was voted the best cover of the magazine of the year. So it's clearly like "Believe All Women." That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. This woman who verifiably lied about everything about this gang rape that happened with Brett Kavanaugh, and it was clearly all false, and she verifiably lied. So don't believe all women because women lie. Okay, just like believing all men doesn't make sense. Okay, believe all women, believe all men. That doesn't make any sense. You can't believe a group of people. People lie. So yeah, believe all women. It's a stupid slogan. And really, the purpose here is to silence people and to get people to not criticize women ever. Because you're a woman, I can't criticize you. That's what this is about, is silencing an entire group of people, silencing men, and, whatever happened to innocent until proven guilty. The silence, they wanted to silence a man into, not even trying to prove his innocence. They prove the innocence that he never committed a gang rape, verifiably false. And, they wanted to prevent him from defending himself. And in this country, we don't do that. We don't silence people from their defense. If they want to defend themselves against accusations, they have the ability to do that. And they should be able to do that. And this whole, magazine cover that was voted on, "Believe All Women," it's just stupid, and it's against everything we believe in as Americans. Another one, "Black Lives Matter," really dumb, because all lives matter. right, which includes Black people. Black Lives Matter is a racist movement. It was a racist organization. They were money laundering, and it bred more racism. And by definition, saying all lives matter is actually the opposite of racism, and saying Black Lives Matter is actually really, really racist. Another one that they like to say is transgenocide. Not happening. Nobody kills transgender people. Transgender murders, if you actually look into it, very, very small. And most of it isn't because of their hate crimes, right? It's not because they're transgender. If you look at the transgender hate crimes, it's very, very small. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but it's like not even 60, okay, for the year that people die. Not even, I don't even want to say 60. I think it's not even like 10 where people die because they're transgender and people are out there attacking them because they're trans. That rarely ever happens. Usually transgender people tend to be in fields that ultimately get themselves killed. So when you look at transgender homicides, those are not even really all that high, but they are high because, or not all that high, but they're there because they're in like prostitution and they wind up dying because they're in this dangerous line of work. I don't even really want to call it a line of work. They're participating in criminal activity. There's a lot of transgender people who tend to be prostitutes or tend to work in environments or hang out in environments like drug addicts, drug deals, things like that. They tend to be in those spaces, and then they ultimately die by homicide because they're in those spaces. Anybody who's in that space tend to die from homicide and are more likely to die by homicide. But it's not because they're transgender. And if you look at transgender homicides, very, very minuscule. Not a whole lot of people are dying. Transgenders are not dying. Now, the suicide rate, that's a different story. If you want to say trans suicide, that would be more that would be closer to the truth. But transgenocide, nobody's out there killing transgender people. Not even close. I think it's like, I could probably count on my hand how many transgender people died within this last year because of homicide. And I'll look those numbers up. I don't have them in front of me. Should have done that. But I know that it's a very, very small number. The love is love. That one's annoying. Some people love really bad things. For example, Hitler loved killing the Jews. Love is not necessarily a great thing. It doesn't mean that it's right. Okay, it doesn't mean that it's good for you individually, and it certainly doesn't mean that it's good for society, i.e. the example of Hitler, where he loved killing the Jewish people. And he loved the German race or whatever, and would go after the Jewish people. So it's not love is love. It's not like... That's a dumb saying. It's stupid. Another one, my body, my choice. Clearly, it's not your body. There's a baby inside your belly. That's somebody else's body, and that's what we're talking about as pro-lifers is, okay, it's not really your body, so it's not really your choice. That's the whole point, is because there's another body in there. It's not your body. Abortion is legal also in a majority of states, so it's kind of a silly phrase to begin with, and to say that there's an attack on reproductive rights is just not true. Majority of states, it's legal for an abortion, and most of those states have late-term abortion, i.e. Illinois. I think it's kind of funny. My body, my choice, leftists, they'll say that and they're all for, personal freedom or whatever, reproductive rights, my personal body autonomy. They, are always about that when it comes to abortion and drugs. They're like, yeah, it's my body, my choice. If I want to take shrooms, I can take shrooms. If I want to take heroin and do open air drug deals, that's my choice. Okay. What about homeschooling or school choice? Right? They're against school choice, where you send your kids to school. They're against that. And they never actually advocate for personal freedom. What about your right to bear arms, which is actually a right that you have in the Constitution, your Second Amendment rights? They're not for personal freedom when it comes to that. In other words, you can't say, or you can't name, outside of abortion and drugs, where they're pro personal freedom. They're just not. Another slogan that I don't like, let me think, be true to yourself, or what is it? Be your true self. That one really bothers me because it's just like, be true to yourself or be your true self. There's one truth, okay? And it's the truth. Jesus is the truth, the light, life in the light. And speak your truth. There's only one truth. Be your true self. There's only one truth. You can't change who you are to be your true self. You are who you are. Okay. So what slogan do you not like? Let me know in the text 309-451-9299. You can also visit me on YouTube. I do want to talk about Dick Durbin and Brandon Straka. Brandon Straka, he was a Jan 6 attendee, and Dick Durbin is out there along with other Illinois lawmakers like Eric Swanson, and they're continuing to lie about Capitol Police dying as a result of January 6th, the riot. I'll be right back with that. You're listening to Conservative Cat. What slogan do you not like? Trust the experts. That's a really good one. My body, my choice. Yeah, my body, my choice. Then, you can't mandate vaccines. Trust the experts is another slogan that I can't stand that the left has. What's another one? I already said, speak your truth, be your true self. There's all kinds of slogans out there, but yeah, they're not. When it comes to personal freedom, the only thing that they advocate, the only things that they advocate for when it comes to personal freedom is your personal freedom to kill people, babies, via abortion, and then your personal freedom to kill yourself and others, drugs. So they're only for personal freedom when the results are killing and death and destruction. But when it comes to, personal freedom that leads to a better life or leads to, students being happier in a school of their choice, or people taking their bodily autonomy in their own hands and staying healthy and not getting vaccinated with an experimental mRNA shot, which isn't even really a vaccine. They changed the definition of vaccine to include the COVID-19 shot. Anything like that, or your Second Amendment, protecting yourself, they're all anti personal freedom when it comes to those things. Okay, we're going to be right back. I do want to talk about Dick Durbin. I actually wanted to look this up on Open Secrets. It's some data. Dick Durbin, his top, and like I said, he is bought and paid for by the $500,000, nearly $500,000 from health professionals. So he's bought and paid for within the last year, bought and paid for by the pharmaceutical companies and by health professionals. Okay. So if you just take a quick gander on his Open Secrets data, who's contributing to this guy, he is bought and paid for by the elitist. And when these people say that, oh, I'm all about the working family, just to remember that he raised $9.3 million in his last campaign. Okay, campaign fundraising from 2019 to 2024. He spent he raised $9.3 million. So that's roughly, how many years is that? 2019, 4 or 5 years. 6 years. In 6 years, he raised $9 million. Okay, raised it. That's not on top of his salary that he makes as a majority whip and as a judiciary chairman and as a congressman. He's making money there, but he raised this money via campaign contributions from rich elitists. I'm going to be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Woo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Real quick, I want to get to this story. And then, folks, I just came across this. I'm going to play it on the other side in the next segment because I got to pull the audio. But I guess Joe Biden made a joke. He tends to do this all the time where he makes really distasteful jokes. So this really makes me sick. Joe Biden, he's quoted saying this: "Fire away, no pun intended." Thousands of homes were lost, lives were forever changed. In the commander-in-chief, he's cracking jokes again. So I'm going to get to the audio here in just a second. But Brandon Struck talked with him about Senator Dick Durbin and other Illinois lawmakers. They're continuing to lie about the Illinois Capitol Police, or about the Capitol Police on January 6th dying as a result of the riot that happened. There was a 4th anniversary, obviously, of January 6th just a few days ago, and Durbin on social media, he said 5 officers lost their lives because of January 6, 2021. That's what he was saying on social media. And Brandon Schrock, he was on the east side of the Capitol that day, which is the side that didn't see a whole lot of violence. Like I've told you multiple times, I think that the Capitol Police started the violence, and they pushed the people into the Capitol with rubber bullets and gas, and the people felt forced to go inside of the Capitol on the west side. So one of them, Brian Sicknick, died of natural causes. We know that, the chief medical officer there in D.C., and ruled his death of natural causes. The other remaining 4 that Dick Durbin here in the social media post, he shared their pictures and said that, he's standing with the families of the fallen or whatever. And other 4 officers committed suicide, some of them 9 to 10 months after January 6th. And what's sick is that these people, Eric Sorensen, Dick Durbin, all of these people who say that these officers died, they're trying to say that it happened because of the Capitol or the Capitol grounds. They were there at the Capitol grounds that day on January 6th. And that's why these people committed suicide, despite no evidence, right? There's no suicide letter that says I killed myself because of January 6th. To this date, no one's produced a single suicide note or anything that says I'm going to take my own life today, 9 months after January 6th, because I worked the Capitol riot 9 months ago, okay? The District of Columbia's office, the D.C. office of Chief Medical Examiner, found that Officer Brian Sicknick, he died of natural causes a day or so after January 6th. He had a stroke. In October of 21, the founder of the Walk Away Foundation, Brandon Strzok. Walk Away is like this foundation where he encourages people to walk away from the Democrat Party. He pled guilty to a misdemeanor count of disorderly and disruptive content. Brandon Strzok said he doesn't condone the protest getting out of hand and turning into a riot. However, he struggles, of course, with this idea that Capitol Police officers who would sign up, train, and become a police officer and be like, one day, oh my gosh, never believed I would have to work a riot as a police officer. So now I need to kill myself, right? Does that make any sense to you? This is just such a silly notion that these officers killed themselves because of January 6th. They train, they prep for things like riots, the Capitol Police officers. They train to be a Capitol Police officer. And I don't think that these officers were so shocked that people got out of hand one day when they were at work, and so shocked to the point where they killed themselves. Like I said, no suicide note that says I killed myself because of January 6th. So to get out there and claim this is just totally disingenuous. On social media, Dick Durbin says a mob of politically motivated extremists. There was one guy that day that had a gun on him, and it was concealed carry, and he never brandished his weapon, by the way. So they weren't politically motivated enough to bring guns, I guess. Have trashed the Capitol building in an attempt to overturn a free, fair, and valid election. Our democracy prevailed. This is what he said on social media on the 4th anniversary. Eric Swarnston, echoing his comments, said that he's standing with law enforcement who defended the Capitol and with the families of the fallen. Oh boy, give me a break. Like I said, that's a lie. To say that Capitol officers died as a result of January 6th, not true in even the slightest. I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat.
Today, the Sugar Bowl is back on. Kickoff is going to take off very shortly. If I don't get this damn thing done, we're going to be in real trouble.
Okay, holy crap. Here we go. I'm going to be sharing this with you. Joe Biden making yet another joke about something very devastating. Now, just a week or so ago, Joe Biden actually made a joke about the New Orleans massacre, where this Jabbar terrorist mowed down a bunch of people and about 14 people died. And New Orleans is reeling after this tragedy. And Joe Biden makes a joke at this press conference. He holds this press conference and he says, "You can't really keep it down, New Orleans. You really can't. We're seeing that today. The Sugar Bowl is back on. Kickoff is going to take off shortly. If I don't get this damn thing done," meaning the press conference, "we're going to be in real trouble." And then there was laughter. And that's a joke that he made about the New Orleans massacre. Now he's making a joke about the California wildfires, these massive California wildfires. This guy is honestly one of the most disgusting human beings. I think that he is nasty, and I think that he's senile. Both can be true at the same time. He can be senile and a complete jerk, and that's what Joe Biden is. He's just a complete jerk. So we're gonna get to that here in just a second. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Absolutely insane. I can't believe he said this. Take a listen to Joe Biden. Here he is speaking about the massive California wildfires. That was a terrible choice of words. Really, really quick. Let me play this one more time. Take a listen. Here he is.
Madam Vice President, I know you're directly affected, so you fire away.
He says, Madam Vice President, I know you're directly affected, so fire away. Wow, I can't believe it. This reminds me of the remarks he made at a press conference just a week or so ago about New Orleans. He said, New Orleans, quote, is a city of tremendous spirit. It can't keep it down, which is weird. You really can't. You can't keep it down. You really can. And then he says, the Sugar Bowl is back on. Kickoff is going to take off very shortly. If I don't get this damn thing done, we're going to be in real trouble. And then, he's cracking a joke here about this New Orleans massacre. He's cracking a joke here. He says, fire away, no pun intended. You can see Kamala Harris's face. Like, she turns as white as a ghost. She's like, oh boy, Joe Biden. He cracked a joke about these people dying. There's people dying because of these massive California wildfires. There were 14 people who died in the New Orleans attack. Terrorist attack. And this guy is senile, but he's also nasty. Both can be true at the same time. You guys have a blessed Friday. Bye-bye. Have a safe weekend and stay safe on the roads. They could be a little bit slippery after that little dusting we got of snow last night. So be blessed. We'll be back at it bright and early on Monday morning. Find me on YouTube and subscribe to the channel today.